Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to EUWChallenger Series number 13, Day 3 with the semi-finals and the first best of 3 with Copenhagen Wolves and h2k. This should be a very interesting match. These teams are very evenly matched in skill, I feel. I am Pulse and I am joined by Metas. How's it going?
Hey Pulse, hey viewers, it's going very well, thank you. Hoping for some big matches here. As you say, I feel that Copenhagen Wolves, obviously a lot of people coming into this match would expect to win quite convincingly, but I feel h2k could pull out a few upsets here, Pulse. They're not a walkover by any stretch of the imagination, and it's also awesome to see that they've all tagged up with their org.
Yeah, and that's very good from at least our perspective, so we don't have to like check their name, then think about it, look at the other team, then look back at them, and then say their name. So we can just read it straight off their tags, which is always nice for us. But I agree completely. We've seen h2k really develop as a team over the last couple of weeks in the EUWChallenger series, especially when they were X and Nexus, and then they changed names, and then they changed names again to h2k. They've constantly been getting better. Super Race, for anyone wondering, is the original account of Limits of Reversal, and that was his original count like a couple, in fact I think almost a year ago now, so he just swapped up because he was tagging up, so that's kind of the reason why. But picks and bans are coming in thick and fast. Zach, Aatrox, Shen, Lee Sin and Cassidy will be the bans.
Yeah, and I'm curious then, if that's his original account, should we actually refer to him as Super Rays rather than Limits of Reversal?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we should just call him by that name. It'll also get rid of any confusion. But speaking of the bans, some very much targeted bans, for example, Lee Sin against Shook is a must. Cassidy, Kautar plays an exceptionally strong Cassidy, and we have seen Shen utilised quite a few times from Copenhagen Wolves. Interestingly enough, the last time we were casting them actually, Pulse, they were switching their roles around. You had Reckless, I believe, was in mid lane as Orianna, and then top is Shen. So, gonna be interesting to see if he takes AD today.
Yeah, I think that was more of a confidence play more than anything. Yeah. They saw that they could win the game, and they were like, okay, let's swap up and see how it works out. And, you know, just having that... having the ability to play a competitive team, also with picks you're not comfortable with, is a great way of training, so that's probably one of the reasons why. And Vi, once again, will be picked out, loving N760 for that one, and also Fresh as well. And Vi will probably be on N760 because he is their jungler, and waiting for the next couple picks to come out. Olaf, okay, I'm going to have to ask if that is a placeholder, because Olaf, we have not seen him in many months, probably since the beginning of Season 3. He's just been deemed not viable. There have been some changes to specifically Phage, which might be one of the reasons why he's been picked up, because it synergizes very well with his character, so I'll just confirm if that's the case.
I would love to see me some Olaf. I'm a big fan of the champion overall, and as you say though, it's definitely not been top tier for quite an exceptionally long time. However, with the changes to Phage, when you get to the movement speed on kills, that could actually be quite viable. I'm not sure the way that they're going to be playing this one. Regardless, Reckless on the Caitlyn there can see Vi locked in, so you're going to be happy again. N760 going for that. And obviously I am casting from the stream right now. I'll be joining on the friends list as soon as we go live into the loading screen. So I'm a little bit behind, but I've just seen there that Ezreal and Sona are going to be locked in for the bot lane. So that is definitely a Season 2 duo lane as well. Lots of burst at level 6 when the True Shot Barrage and Crescendo comes out. Lots of harassment as well.
Yeah, I am going to say though that they already have Fresh. So I'm wondering where they're going to put the extra support. They could run with like double AD carry and have like duo lane top, duo lane bottom, but then they don't have a mid laner. AP Sona is interesting. I wouldn't say that it's 100% viable. I'm not entirely sure what the scaling is because I don't really see anyone building Sona as AP. Fresh in the top lane could work. He has decent scaling in terms of not only his abilities but also AD with the extra damage coming in from Flay. But we'll see what they choose. Again, I'll ask to see if they swap up once again. And I've just had it being confirmed by Reckless that it's Zyra. Olaf is Zyra.
Olaf is Zyra, and we've just been told in chat from Bass, our producer, excuse me, that Sona is Ahri. So yeah, 2 placeholders coming in here. And that is going to get rid of any confusion, because I was thinking double support composition. I guess Thresh could be played in different roles, but it's not going to be the case. Ahri will be Sona.
Yeah, they're not the typical placeholders. Olaf I could definitely see, but could also be viable. I know there's a Chinese player who still plays Olaf because he maxes Undertow and somehow is still amazing. But Sona is typically not your average placeholder. Your placeholder is generally a character you don't pick very often, like Heimerdinger or back when Swedrani was terrible, Swedrani. So waiting for the last pickup, and one more second of that will be Malphite. Okay, so that rounds off the lineup.
Yeah, I was going to say similar as well. It's not too often that you do see Sona as a placeholder because it's a completely viable pick. So regardless, though, the lobby is going to be getting reset here, Pulse. And I guess we should go back to our usual tactic of answering questions from the chat while we wait.
Yeah, so well, I don't think it's a question, but it's definitely something. We should learn to pronounce champion names properly. I'm trying to wonder, like, what champion names that would be. Maybe it's because of your the way you pronounce Ari, but everyone pronounces it different because it can be pronounced differently. Specifically in English, if the characters are meant for like a different country to be pronounced, we'll pronounce it how we'd expect it to be pronounced in English.
Well, it's just a difference in accent, I think, honestly, because we've gone through this before. The way that I pronounce characters like Soraka and Corky and stuff like that will sound different to probably how other casters will, purely on the basis that I'm from the northeast of England. So even though I try not to put my accent into casting because it can confuse people, sometimes it's going to come through. You know who Ari is, though. Whether I say Ari or Ari, you kind of know which champion it is, and therefore I don't really see what the problem is with that.
Yeah, unless people get confused and thinking you're going to say Harry Potter, which is something that occurred to me the first time I heard you say Ari. But one of the questions is, Meet Your Makers, yes indeed. Okay, so they are an LCS team, but because they're in the relegation series, they're not under contractual obligation by Riot, so they don't necessarily need to only be constricted to LCS, because usually teams are under contract, but when they're in that state, in the LCS, then they can enter other tournaments, such as the EUWChallenger series, which is, in fact, a very good place to find themselves competitive play outside of LCS.
Sorry, I'm just cracking up at D-Fade. He said, "You're a wizard, Ari." I don't know why.
That's going on Twitter.
Up. It's actually pretty awesome, so kudos to you, dude. As we said, we are just waiting for the lobby right now. Next game, Pulse, is Meet Your Makers versus who? I've already forgot.
h2k. Oh, wait, no, that's this game.
That would be impressive.
It would be, swapping through the brackets. G-Bot and Meet Your Makers from yesterday.
Ah, okay, nice one. Lobby has came back up again, so I assume that yourself and Bass will be jumping into that. Meanwhile, I'm going to keep an eye on chat and see if any questions come up.
Can you pronounce dragon? Dragon.
I'm not sure. I say Drake.
Yeah, it's true, actually. Yeah, sometimes I say Drake. I generally stick to Drake, and then we had that huge argument in chat that one time, Messes, where people were like, okay, so this is the difference between dragons and drakes in mythological lore, and we were just like, it's the same thing.
Drake, you know what we're talking. Someone said, a drake is a male dragon.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. The worst times. The worst times. But while we have a little bit of a break while we're just getting into the game, we're just waiting for the lobby to come back up. It's worth mentioning that I have another giveaway on Twitter. I'm going to be doing giveaways essentially for the rest of this month. So if you want to get over there, at Impossible. And Metas has just started using Twitter, so I would definitely recommend checking him out. He can say things that he wouldn't usually say on stream, so Metas is a pretty funny guy, but sometimes his humour isn't very relevant to the professional casting environment.
I can't really say most of the things I want to say while I'm casting, otherwise I'd probably be thrown out instantly. So if you are interested, that's at Metas TV. I've also started a Let's Play of Amnesia 2, Amnesia Machine for Pigs. So if you're interested, youtube.com/Metas TV. Again, apologies, we are just trying to fill in some dead time while the two teams are waiting to get into the lobby and start this game off.
Yeah, I would definitely check Metas out, because honestly, I've never been more scared watching someone let's play a game than actually playing it myself. So if you're into browning your pants, then I would definitely check out Metas.
Browning your pants, that's one way of saying it. I refer to them as a Let's Soil Ourselves series rather than a Let's Play, which I think is quite apt, because I react very poorly to jump scares and the like. But this has been quite a long wait, Pulse. Any news on what's going on?
Yeah, we're back in Champion Select Picks and Bans, and they're just going through it very quickly, but there's no real need to comment on it again since we already have gone through the team compositions, so now it's just kind of dead time to just fill in.
Okay, so again, guys, if you have any questions at all, please fire them at us, because we are waiting in the lobby, and we don't really want to cut to music and have you guys waiting for 10 minutes while the delay and then the loading screen comes on. Obviously, we would normally talk about the picks and bans right about now, but we've already gone through this process as the lobby was remade.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about their compositions in general, and specifically summoner spells, because those are some of the things that do change between different players. Xaxus picking up the teleport from Malphite, fairly standard. He doesn't look to kill his lane opponent, so teleport will be really good at getting him into the battles when they hit sort of Drake laning phase, and also when you hit Baron as well. It's great for split pushing. Kaltod going for Fizz, and has also gone for the Flash Ignite. Now that's interesting, because I know a lot of Fizz players like to go for Barrier Ignite. Back in Season 2, they used to go for Ignite and Heal, because with E essentially being a flash on demand every couple seconds, you don't necessarily need flash, but flash in a pinch will give you essentially a triple gap closer.
Yeah, that's very true. So going more for mobility rather than survivability in that case. As you say, a lot of fizzes will go fizzes. That's quite an interesting one. I'm not even sure if that makes sense. A lot of fizz players, I'll just say it like that, will go barrier or teleport as well. We've seen a lot of fizz go teleport and then try and just maneuver on the map, come out of nowhere and suddenly crush somebody's face. So taking flash is interesting. Maybe it's a case of early game realizing that Ahri is quite a threat, and also the jungle of Vi will be a threat too, so it's just going to get you out of dodge against those big ultis coming in, the assault and battery from Vi and the vault breaker as well. Not entirely sure. Can see some questions being asked, however. I don't really understand. How long did you guys cast, and how did you get to cast this tourney?
Oh, I've casted for 2 years, and I got to cast this tourney because I work for Chaos TV, and roughly the same for you, Messes, but we will be jumping to a quick commercial break before we get into all those questions later. So, quick commercial break, we'll be back in a second with the first best of 3 of Day 3 of Copenhagen Wolves and h2k. We'll see you soon.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the EUWChallenger Series number 13. We are now into day number 3 and the first semi-finals of our tournament. Going to be Copenhagen Wolves going up against h2k Gaming. I'm at this joined by Pulse, and I really can't wait to get into this game, Pulse. I think it's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I was going to use exactly the same word. It should be a cracker. And both of these teams, as we mentioned in Champion Select, are very evenly matched when it comes to at least how long they've been together and how polished they are in the EUWChallenger Series. So we have seen this matchup before, and we have seen Copenhagen Wolves win, but now that this is a new week, they've had more development as a team. We could see h2k really bring out something special here. So everyone's splitting up, and as you like to say, Metas, it's kind of like trench warfare when no one really looks for engagement, and everyone's just kind of defending against a potential engagement themselves in the level 1. So looks like Vi's going to be starting up at red buff and then transitioning to blue. Something that isn't all that common, because yes, you will go for the double buff so you can get level 3, but you won't necessarily look to gank bottom lane that early. But from purple side, there's a lot better gank opportunities. And as a result, if you take a look at the two wards in mid lane, that's exactly why. They know if Vi does go for that angle, then we'll see her if she goes for the gank onto bot lane.
That's a very good point, actually, and definitely one to watch out for. Lane switch-ups coming about. It's going to be Ezreal and Thresh going top against Renekton, who does fairly well in these situations, and then it's going to leave Xaxus on Malphite up against Reckless on Caitlyn and Unlimited on Zyra. So going to be interesting matchups across the board here, Pulse. And I think it's going to be one of those kind of fast-paced, furious, firework action games right from the get-go. I would not be too surprised if Elise and Vi go huge and very, very aggressive with these ganks.
I agree, and we're all about looking towards the junglers for the first couple minutes, because it will be about the junglers not only to make ganks and kills happen, but because we have this lane swap up, there's a lot of interesting things they can do. They can go 3 versus 1 for the gank, Elise can go top lane to help Renekton out 1 versus 2 to turn it into a 2 versus 2, or she can counter gank against Vi going in for the 3 versus 1 gank, which looks like it might potentially happen. Harassment going on down on mid lane, but I don't expect a kill to happen all this early. It could potentially happen with Fizz because he has so much all-in potential, at least in the first couple levels. Until Xaxus looks for his own gank, Shook, I should say. Sometimes we have seen Xaxus on the leads, but Shook looking for the gank in the mid lane. Overpower might potentially read this because they knew he might start red, which is very typical. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Vi goes at least 2 versus 2 in the bot. And I'm not entirely sure if she can pick up a kill. Malphite is not all that great for ganking for her. And similarly, looks like Shook is just going to back on off.
Yeah, great game sense from Overpower there. Actually backing away to his own tower as soon as Elise got into position for 2 reasons. One, as you say, they knew the jungle route would have naturally led to that progression, but also suddenly Kautar became very aggressive, going past the minions. Alarm bells began to ring for Overpower, and he's like, okay, something doesn't sit right with me here, so I'm going to go back to my tower. And that's just really smart, patient play in mid, knowing eventually the minions would push anyway, so you are going to get that CS, you are going to get the experience regardless. Elise, in the meanwhile, goes to top lane, and so therefore, not a great deal happening just yet. In fact, that being said, Super Raze is just flayed away. They are going to be jumping very hard on Super Raze. Here comes the Cocoon as well, and the Ignite as well. The Flash has already been turned off. Thought Passage going down for the shield, and another flay flash in from Youngbuck. That's going to be the first Blood. Can they connect the dots and go one better though? Kellever's been caught from a Cocoon. Barrier comes up, flashing away underneath the tower. Shook gives chase, will be taking down that second kill at the cost of his own life. But no doubt Copenhagen Wolves will take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I actually like that play, but in the mid lane, Overpower aggressing onto Kalton. He still has Playful Trickster, now following with Vault Breaker, lands the denting blows, flash out into the Ignite, and a perfect Orb of Deception. Picked up the kill at the very point of the returning point, and that brings it to a 2 for 2 overall.
Absolutely. So top lane, yes, Shook went hyper aggressive, but I think it was a case of the red mist descending as like, we want to kill Celiva. But important thing here, Pulse, is that Celiva burned both of his summoner spells, as did Thresh. So exhaust, 2 flashes, and a barrier are down at top lane. Could very well camp this one out.
I think the main thing to mention is the fact that Elise didn't get the double buff because she died to the double buff and then she picked up the kill, whereas if she died and then Renekton picked up the kill, then they could have prolonged the length of the double buff, which would have made sense, but he couldn't actually stay in. Whereas him losing the double buff will really hurt him for at least the next minute or so, because a double buff is about worn out anyway, but at least it would have given them maybe an extra gank's worth it in terms of mileage. So 760, again, will be maxing the Vault Breaker. There's a lot of dispute about how you should be building Vi in terms of skill order, but I generally trend towards what the Koreans do, and that's maxing Vault Breaker into denting blows.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well to see how these two junglers differ in their approach to this item build. And 760 going for more of a tanky, sustained jungle, whereas Shook's like, okay, boots of mobility instantly, just so that I can get around and to gank a hell of a lot more often. Speaking of which, here he comes from the side. Cocoon goes in, will be juked out from Overpower, and Overpower gets back to the tower without any problems.
But that reflects Shook's playstyle in a nutshell. He just wants to be getting in their jungle, counter-jungling as much as possible, and also the trading power is really valuable to Shook. Going with a mobility boost gives him even more power to gank lanes and just be absolutely everywhere as a jungler, and that is how Shook likes to play these games. So now moving up into the top lane, Youngbuck could easily aggress onto him, doesn't have dominance just as of yet, but Slice and Dice will land, looking for Ruthless Predator. Great usage of the Dark Passage, gets Celiva out of dodge, Hook comes in, locks up Shook. So Youngbuck still looking for some aggression. Call the Meat comes across once again, but doesn't reclaim any kills.
Yeah, problem there is that the Cocoon went awry. Shook fired that one out a bit too early, I feel, and a strange angle, which is more difficult to hit than actually, a bit more easy to miss than hit, I should say. And in fact, actually, Renekton's going back in all by himself against two players, but it's just aggression. He's not going to be hanging around, and also does have the Giant's Belt, so is very tanky at this stage of the game. Also, a nice death sentence landing from Super Rays on Elise, so really coming good there. And as I was saying earlier, with the two flashes down and the other summoner spells down, definitely a target being painted on their back for Shook. However, they weren't able to exploit the weakness.
Yeah, still 2-2 and 300 gold advantages to Copenhagen Wolves is nothing huge, but we've seen them scale off harder than with less, honestly. And if you don't shut Wolves down early game, this is something we've seen time and time again in all the games we've casted with them, that they just snowball out of control. They get to team fights and there's no way you can shut them out. Whereas if you do get like a couple thousand gold advantage on them early, you can still at least beat them in trade. You can beat them in small skirmishes. So we'll see how this works out. But h2k, the jungler of 760, is very aggressive, and he does like to go for ganks, and he is also running Vi. So when Ahri hits level 6, which he is already hit the level 7, then he should be starting to look for at least some roaming ganks.
Yeah, we have said this a couple times before as well, Pulse, that at least the way I feel, obviously correct me if you feel differently here, is that Copenhagen Wolves have one of the strongest team fight teams that I've seen in EUWChallenger series so far. Very few teams can go head to head with them in 5 versus 5 fights. Their positioning is extraordinary, their engaging is almost flawless. It's very difficult to beat them in a straight up team fight. So that's another thing that potentially h2k have got to keep in the back of their minds here.
Yeah, agreed. So right now in the top lane, they've actually swapped on up, knowing that Malphite was actually having a very hard time. So even though they were doing decently well against Renekton, the fact that Shook was basically playing his ganks flawlessly, so that he couldn't actually do anything against... okay, that was interesting. Couldn't actually do anything against Youngbuck. Even the bot lane, Celiva just arcane shifts out. And we had the usage of Stranglethorns. I think he was predicting that the ultimate in form of Assault and Battery from h2k, meaning that by the time he had connected and actually landed the CC portion, he would have been knocked up as soon as he actually got to his target. So as a preemptive ultimate, that wasn't bad, but it didn't actually happen, so it just looked odd in the end. So on the bot lane, both of the junglers, tri-lane at bot, but nothing is really going to happen.
Yeah, that being said though, this tower is very, very low on hit points, 179 of them left. So next couple of creep waves, you have to feel this tower could be falling, and that's the reason why 760 is still hiding around the sides. They know that Stranglethorns is down as well, so they're going to be coming around from the back. Grasping Roots comes out, does land on Super Rays. Can they pick this one up? Assault and Battery on to Unlimited, who's forced to flash away instantly. There's a death sentence though, definitely going to live up to its name. The question is, can they answer backwards? Because here comes Shook from the side. The box has been popped down. Super Rays is going to sacrifice so that Celiva and 760 can escape. Good guy, Super Rays, and that will be the return kill coming in from Reckless.
Yeah, Super Ace wasn't actually reading from the same page as his two other players, because he was like, okay guys, we can go for the second kill. I'll position myself, I'll go into bot, but then they already, both of them were like maybe 2 seconds ahead of him, thinking that already Elite was going to be counter-ganking, because he was already a bot a little while ago, so they backed off, and then Super Ace realized he was in no man's land and then got picked up. Meanwhile, at the Dragon, we actually have Shut just tanking up with those spiderlings, meaning that you can take Dragon very early on to the game. 10 minutes isn't exceptionally early, but you can actually do it in theory. Caitlyn also chiming in, but Elise could have actually soloed, especially with Spirit Stone. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Overpower potentially caught, Duke's out of the way of Cocoon, and also Chump the Waters whiffs, meaning that no gank in the mid lane will actually be successful.
Although it will be success in the sense that Overpower used Flash there to just completely get out of dodge. So that is going to again be some good news to h2k's ears, who can go into mid again. One downside, however, is that Overpower is now past level 6, in fact level 9, and does have Spirit Rush. So it's still going to be very difficult to gank unless they can land a Cocoon. Dark Passage comes out from Super Ace, and that's going to mark the end of that action. Top lane, it's pretty much going to be a farming frenzy here, Pulse. I mean, you got Malphite against Renekton. The kill potential isn't too high up there.
No, Renekton cannot do any damage to Malphite because he's just going to be stacking armor. There's no real reason for him not to be in the early game. He'll start to build some later because he's got the damage threats of both Elise and Fizz to be magic damage, but in the top lane, he'll just probably go for something like a Sunfire Cape because that will give him innate pushing, and then Youngbuck won't be able to kill him. Xaxis won't be able to kill him in return, but at least he can farm and get to that stage where he is that tank and initiator that they really need.
Well, you just saw there that Youngbuck jumped in with the slice and dice and auto-attacked, and Xaxis' health didn't seem to plummet at all. Like, just nothing happened. Colomeek's doing a bit of damage, but it's simply not enough to force Xaxis out of the lane right now. Ping's coming down as h2k is moving his way back into his own jungle, walks over a sight ward. So that's going to give the knowledge to h2k as to where h2k is. It's going to give some brief respite for Overpower, who knows that he can now push mid a bit more aggressively. Bot tower, of course, as we mentioned previously, was low, has fallen, and that's going to manage to translate itself into nearly 3k gold advantage for Copenhagen Wolves at 12.5 minutes. It's significant, but it's nothing too huge right yet, Pulse.
Yeah, at least in the early game, at least the first couple of minutes, we were expecting some action to happen from the junglers, and indeed we did see it. We saw 6 kills going down and a tower at the bot lane. But now we've hit that stage in the game where neither team really want a team fight, and neither team really want to be aggressive. h2k could potentially bring his team into their jungle and then go for like a counter jungle and wander the bus, but with the bus being down, that's not really on the cards for them, and he doesn't really need to. They just need to sit back and farm. Both of these teams benefit from that. Deftenses lands in the mid lane, though. Kaltod goes incredibly deep. I think he's disconnected. Yeah. Pause has gone in, and that was, there was literally no way I could see why Kaltod would do that and then auto-attack the turret, and he is actually DC'd.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because he's going to die as soon as he comes back off, I think. Even with the playful Trickster, I'm fairly sure he's about to get smacked in the face from a tower shot. Not entirely sure because I wasn't looking primarily on him while it was happening. But regardless, they're talking now in chat saying, yeah, it's DC'd and you attacked. What I would say is Fizz is one of those kind of champions, Pulse, where you never really know. They can play very aggressive behind towers and then playful Trickster away. So I'm not going to blame Super Ace or Overpower from that because honestly, how could they know?
I actually agree with Super Ace's play. Like, if he was turning around the side and he saw the aggression, without even thinking in a normal scenario, if you weren't expecting a DC, anyone would have gone for that death sentence. Literally anyone. Like, I don't know anyone who could have predicted the future and known Kaltod was going to do that. And Kaltod actually gets out and they're not going to pursue. Wow, that's actually really good sportsmanship from h2k, considering that that should have been a kill. And meanwhile, on the top lane, teleport coming in from Malphite, initiation from 760 into Stranglethorn, doesn't connect, in fact it connects onto Xaxis, the flash comes into contention, straight into Unstoppable Force, 2 more auto-attacks picks up the kill onto Unlimited, meanwhile Ace in the hole picks up a kill onto his ally 760, doesn't quite connect the death sentence. Reckless still trading off though, he still doesn't want to be here, a good play in the wrong direction, flash comes out, now h2k comes into contention, tilt over into Fenrir's right, picks up 1, looking towards Xaxis, but he's so damn tanky, he won't be able to take down the next kill, and Overpower finds himself in a trap. He still follows up, and great juke out of the way of the charm, and now follows up. h2k is still looking for the aggression. They don't need to trade anymore, but man, that trap.
That trap, and he actually spirit rushed into the trap as well, so I could imagine there were some expletives going on for h2k's TeamSpeak. Another pause comes in, not too sure what's happening here. It could very well be Coutard DCing again. Oh no, apparently Reckless is having FPS drops. Couple things to mention about Reckless. One, again, his farm, his CSing is phenomenally high. Up until 12 minutes, I believe he had like 120 CS. So again, he was hitting it on the head. Second point is, Caitlyn with Phage. That's an interesting one, Pulse. It's not one you see every day.
Yeah, now looking at the remake, because of how Phage works, I'm going to actually turn my attention to Youngbuck, who's taking away their blue buff. Celiva over the wall looking for the steal, he gets it! Now trading off with Youngbuck, this is not the place he wants to be in. He still is able to kite away from him using that Phage. Heading back to his turret, but Youngbuck's going all in. He still is just chunking him out. 760 from the side. Coutard in hot pursuit. Locks him up with Ruthless Predator. More damage coming in with the Mystic shots. Coutard jumping in. And in return, the True Shot Rod comes out. The flash into the Death Sentence. So close to the backside of Youngbuck. Connects one auto attack. Doesn't have the ultimate in the form of the Sultan Battery to continue.
Yeah, and just going back onto the Phage, I think right now for AD carries, it's a very strong item. The reason being the passive, the Rage. Not just the health and the attack damage, which of course is very, very useful, but Rage. Basic attacks grant 20 movement speed. I'm keeping an eye on mid here, just in case Shook does go all in on Overpow, who is running away with his tail between his legs, or the 9 tails between his legs. He has just been caught out from the cocoon. Here it comes right now, Chumba Waters. This does not look good for Overpower from his perspective. Thought Passage comes out, but it's just a teasing, flirtatious Thought Passage. Like the carrot in front of the nose. Will not be able to land that one. Death Sentence comes out, actually lands on Shook, but I don't think they want to follow that one up, especially as their mid laner is down and Coutard is still here. As I was going to say, Phage, the Rage will give you basic attacks grant 20 movement speed for 2 seconds on hit. If you kill, that's 60 movement speed for 2 seconds. So you're getting a lot of maneuverability and mobility just from auto-attacking or killing CS.
There's two things I want to mention. One, well, actually, first off, Celiva's being aggressed on the bot lane, but that Death Sentence from Super Ace, even though they couldn't follow on it, that was Matrix level of landing Death Sentence. That was through the actual Wraiths that was still up, and also the Spiderlings. Like, I literally have no idea how he managed to do that. And the second thing is, metas. Did you just think of 9 tails between his legs on the fly, or was that premeditated? Because it was on the fly. That was
I thought of it on the fly. I don't know what's wrong with me. Please
quote metas, because that's amazing.
I don't even know where it came from. I know she's got 9 tails, but whatever. Like, it's
so
just weird. Regardless though, Pulse, in this game, I just muted my mic, GG, well played.
Okay.
In this game, even though it's 6-4, and even though it's 2 towers to 0 against h2k, I still feel they have a real shot at this game. Yes, they're losing the Drake. Yes, they are going behind at an alarmingly fast rate. But their team composition is still pretty strong in them team fight situations. What they need is access to push this top tower down and to start grouping as 5, I feel. If they wait too long, then that's when you really play into Copenhagen Wolves' hands. Because Caitlyn 163 CS at 17 minutes, yeah, that's just going to keep being the case.
I think right now is their time to shine. They've hit level 11 on both the AP carry and Xaxus, so they've hit a huge damage spike. Also, their team fight is very strong, and now with hitting a sort of mid-game, they really need to step it up now. Plus they have Ezreal versus Caitlyn, so in terms of raw damage output and the way he's building, he'll outclass him. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Reckless takes some hits from Ari. Another follow win, and actually the perfect Assaulted Battery. Dragonform comes in for the counter initiate, picks up the kill with excessive force, flash out of the way of Flay. Now Shook on the point of contention doesn't get picked up, no extra damage to follow in. But 1-0 trade, not only do they have a good team fight, but they have great picking potential, but they need to try and convert these things into objectives.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. It's all well and good getting a kill here and a kill there. You have to start converting it into either map control or objectives. One or the other. You can't just get a kill and then back off to your own towers. I realise that's kind of the state of affairs right now for h2k, because they're actually quite far behind for 18 minutes through the game. But at some point they're going to have to start making plays. As you say, at bot lane, it's going to be Fizz against Celiva. It's not looking very good, and that will be a completely free kill. So all of that kind of advantage that they picked off the Reckless kill has been completely null and voided due to Coutard's damage.
Yeah, Chum the Waters actually hit him from across the wall when he was in that kind of nook in the map where you can't actually see him. So that was really well played, and then his follow-up, it was easy from there. All he needed to do was connect the ultimate. Malphite has been sieging this turret for the last 2 minutes because his pushing potential is actually very weak. The Youngbuck's going to try his best to kill Zaxxas, but he didn't even destroy the Granite Shield. Now he has, and now just kind of backs off because Malphite's too tanky.
Yeah, this could literally rage on this battle at top lane for centuries, and nothing would really happen. So at the moment, it is just proper farming, and you got to say, Youngbuck is coming out ahead in that respect. He's about 36 CS ahead of Zaxxas, and is going to go further ahead. Meanwhile, in mid lane, they are going to be engaging here. Coutard playful trickstering away. And the True Shot Barrage coming in from the side as well. So, thus far, we were speaking about it before in Champion Select. A lot of Fizz players will go for the barrier or teleport. Flash paying out dividends thus far for Coutard. Able to be hyper-maneuverable and get himself into position in those team fights. Has a Lich Bane already, so it's going to be doing really, really disgusting damage to whoever he fights off against. And that's also going to include Malphite. We've said this before, Pulse. If you just stack armor as Malphite, that's where the AP carries can start hurting.
Yeah, one of h2k's biggest predicaments actually jumps on Hater with the assault battery into Strangleforce for a counter initiate. All the knockups all over the board. As Ace comes across, picks up another kill. 2 for 1 so far in favour of Copenhagen Wolves, but h2k are in much better shape. Repel comes up, Zaxxas looking to fall, but Shook is on solo HP. Death Sentence doesn't land, and Celeber actually taking so much damage into barrier. 3-1 trade, and Copenhagen Wolves, yes, they're very low HP, but they still come out ahead. They do not have the tools in their kit to reclaim any more kills. And Celeber tries to take the blue buff, but again, is too low.
Yeah, way too risky when Reckless and Shook are just hanging around the side there. They will pick it out. Here comes the True Shot Barrage, though, and actually does land on Reckless. Just tickling him, though. Not doing significant damage to pick up that kill. And Super 8 is trying his best to become Captain Hook in this game, but it's just not happening when Spiderlings are in the way. That was really close to landing on Elise and potentially locking down the kill, but that scumbag Spiderling once again completely ruining his day.
Captain Hook. Honestly, Metas is on fire today with these puns. Outstanding. So, right, 5 versus 5. I can still see h2k winning. And the point I was going to make literally just before that team fight happened is because one of their biggest predicaments is one of the biggest damage dealers for their team right now is Fizz, and 760 can't engage on him. Point and click abilities like Assault and Battery can be easily mitigated by Playful Trickster. So in that sense, because most players will just flash out of it, and that's actually more detrimental in the same way that flashing out of a depth charge would be, but because they can't actually do that, and in the bot lane they're finding Reckless once again. Celeber follows up into this tower dive, and addressing once again with the Vault Breaker, but Counter Gang comes in from a limited and Shook, courtesy of the auto attacks, will pick up another kill. Great Dark Passage over the wall. Coutard, though, doesn't quite connect to Chum the Waters. Meanwhile, Youngbuck comes in from the top side, lands the Death Sentence. Another kill comes out, courtesy of Coutard. Now, 3 versus 1. Youngbuck is unstoppable with his dominance right now. Overpowered Pop Spirit Rush gets out of dodge. Zax is still around the area, Shook following up along with his Spiderlings, and Coutard picks up another kill on the wings in the form of Super 8s.
And this is what we're talking about, Pulse, that if you allow Copenhagen Wolves a few steps on that ladder, they are just going to go right to the top and not going to stop, and that is going to be Elise picking up the kill on Ari and getting that one for free. That therefore means that with a very much a gaping hole in the defense from h2k, this mid tower will be falling as a result as well. The gold is now starting to hemorrhage. It's spiraling out of control. 10,000 gold lead in favor of Copenhagen Wolves. Caitlyn, Reckless, even though got completely, well, stomped at bot lane, still managed to survive and burned out a couple of key ultimates on top of that. So 220 CS at 22 minutes 45, Pulse, is not bad going.
It's kind of absurd, but even at this stage of the game, 760 finding himself Fizz, and he was still in that point where he could recall and not be interrupted, but they still have the potential to win. And cancelling out the Vault Breaker with Cocoon. Now Super 8 is in the scene, lands the Assault and Battery onto Reckless, Unlimited is there for the counter initiate, doesn't quite connect the Strangleforce, Border Dax comes down, across the map will be the True Shot Barrage, Unlimited is still there, Super 8 drops in return, now looking towards Zaxxas, who has arrived in the scene. Vaultbreaker gets him out of a sticky situation, but Chum the Waters comes across with Calton. Right place, right time, double kill comes in for Shook. Meanwhile, Zaxxas and Salva trading up. Ultimate comes in onto Unlimited, picks up another, turning in with a Venomous Bite. Now with Calton there, 2 versus 1. Youngbuck looking to clean up this kill, gets it with the Urchin Strike, and that will be a 3-for-2 trade.
What a strange staggered fight that was from both teams. It just seemed to come in different stages. You're like stage 1 with Reckless falling, and now Shook is entering stage 4. Could very well be his last as well. However, Shook is quite tanky at this stage of the game. Celiva does not want to be going one-on-one with Young Bucks, Renekton with Dominus as well. Here comes Elise from the side. Can they land a Cocoon, forcing the Arcane Shift away? You got no flash on Celiva, but that doesn't seem to matter too much. With the barrier available, will be escaping and picking up his red. But again, Pulse, that was a really strange staggered fight around the Drake area and just beyond. But still, Drake is up and alive.
Yeah, another point of contention, so that they can potentially still go for an engage and still come out strong. But it's getting worse and worse for h2k, because the further and further you get behind, the more on point you have to be in team fights. So it's very difficult from their perspective. They have a lot of damage, they have Overpower and they have Saliva, and the upfront damage from Zaxxas and 760. I would like to see a damage item for one of those two players, at least to just kind of bring more to the table, because the front line of Copenhagen Wolves is so strong, they're almost inevitably not going to be able to kill Calton. They can always get on Reckless, because Vi's ultimate is so good, even if Reckless uses Flash, even if he uses 90 caliber net. So in that situation, there's very little Reckless can do. So yes, they eliminate one big star target, but they can't pick up someone like Calton. Super Rays over the wall, looks for the pick, no one really to follow up on his ambition. But if they can't get a pick onto Calton, I feel they'll be in good shape. But Fizz is one of the slipperiest champions in the league.
Certainly is. And also, I would like to bring some attention to Zaxxas' build right now. You're against an Elise jungle, which is predominantly AP damage, a Fizz, AP damage, and Zyra, who also is going to be doing quite a lot of AP damage, and he only has Merc Treads in form of magic resist. I feel maybe some MR is required on Malphite's behalf here.
Yeah, I'm just going to hold that thought for a second as they aggress onto the Beowulf and pick up themselves another objective. But I completely agree. After picking up the Sunfire Cape, which is kind of intrinsic and he needs it in his kit just to push because he has the teleport, I can understand that. I can also understand the Merc Treads because of the CC, but the Warden's Mail, I don't really see the need for it, considering you already have Sunfire Cape, which will keep you going at least into the later mid-game, and then you can pick up something like Spirit Visage, and you'll have not only extra healing income, but you'll have a great regen and the magic resist, which is all important when dealing against a very AP heavy team, and magic resist is very essential. So I completely agree with you, Metas. That's a very interesting pickup.
I hope it does change though, because Malphite needs to be very tanky in these team fights and absorb a lot of damage, and right now will not be able to do so, and you're effectively taking quite a big chunk from 3 players on the opposition team. Now got a 3 versus 3 situation at top lane, with the remaining 2 players coming up. They are going to be Unlimited and Youngbuck. Unlimited has an Oracle, so walking completely free. They know that they're safe. They have not been spotted just yet. Here comes Zaxxas from the side, though. Instant reactions from Reckless to flash away from the Unstoppable Force. That was beautiful reactions, cat-like in its maneuver. But now Shook is being crushed from 760. Still manages to survive. 760 falls as the Ignite ticks down. Now Overpower needs to be careful. Ace in the hole comes out. Zaxxas has just been caught on there. And actually, Ari will fall at the end of that fight. As the pause comes in, apparently Kautar DC'd, so having some serious issues, but even without Kautar in that fight, they go 2 for 0.
Yeah, I don't think it really mattered, honestly, and I don't think they can pick up the kill onto Zaxxas. The ace in the hole is already down, but I was looking at that team fight and I was just thinking their front line is completely disintegrating. One of the biggest weaknesses of Malphite and Vi as a combination is, yes, they have heavy engage, but they literally have no peel or CC after that. Vi can use Vault Breaker, but it's fairly weak as CC. Yes, it's an interrupt, but that's kind of as far as it goes. Jump over the wall from Super Rays, doesn't land, the death sentence onto Shook, gets the extra damage off, so close, it was worth the try. Celiva gets picked up by Calton with Playful Trickster, and that's another kill going down, in fact another 2 kills, and it's just going from bad to worse. It is just slipping out of their hands.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that's going to be definitely echoed with the surrender vote that comes in 4-1 from h2k Gaming. Again, I would like to just go back on that beautiful flash from Reckless getting out of the unstoppable force instantly, repositioning at the back of the fight and just crushing faces. Finishes on 275 CS at 27 minutes 45 in the game. That's pretty impressive CSing by anyone's standards. Regardless though, Pulse, as you say, that's going to be game number 1, going to Copenhagen Wolves in this best of 3. I am curious, can h2k bounce back in your opinion? Because that was quite one-sided from the beginning.